All right, now, everybody. Quiet, listen to me. We're going to start a show. Now, some of you people have been with me before. You know it's going to be a tough grind, but we're going to have a show.
Who can't love a Monday, everybody? So sweet. We tabulated the March Madness votes. Voting continued till Friday midnight. It's kind of exciting. All the other exciting stuff of the weekend we'll review for you. This is the Mark Thompson Show. I am Mark. We are blessed with the magic of Kim, everybody.
Kim, how are you?
Kim is becoming very important in our story. If you stay tuned for just a moment, I'll share how. Albert is here, the commissioner of March Madness.
Albert, thank you.
We're in the middle of March Madness. You can see I'm wearing the March Madness hat. And now the breaking news. I guess, Albert, this would be a major announcement, if you want to, term it such. This is a major announcement, what I'm about to tell you. And then I'll get to March Madness, which is pretty great. So, Albert, you have a
major announcement from the Mark Thompson Show. A major announcement.
Thank you, Albert. Thank you. That's very well done. Would have been better done if I hadn't had to call for it 3 times, but all right. It got on the air, and that's the important thing. The major announcement is that even as we speak, and that everybody is here, I must be somewhere else.
What?
Yes. I have to do KFI radio this morning.
What?
I know. And so I'm going to actually turn the show over to Kim.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. And Kim will be the captain of this ship.
Okay.
I am the captain now, as they said in, Captain Phillips. I am doing this, though, so that we can get into March Madness and that we can reset March Madness for you, which is something that we're doing all morning. 2 drops face off against each other in the first hour, 2 drops in the second hour. And I'll rejoin the show, if it's okay with you, Kim, to kind of, do March Madness throughout the show. Is that cool? That, even as you host it. Okay.
Good. No, this is great.
All right. So
kind of keep up the momentum of March Madness. And
Thank you. I know you got a lot of stuff to do in the show, and we will get to it. Again, though, I just wanted to let everybody know we're turning the show over to Kim. She will rock the house this morning. So smash the like button like a boss for Kim.
Smashed it with your iron rod.
And right now, let's do some March Madness.
Now, I can't believe it. March Madness.
You're damn straight, man. Commissioner, update the voting on Friday, if you would, please.
So on Friday, we had quite the matchups, including one that I don't really like. But the 2 that moved on was one of our favorites, Casey Kasem. They do this to me all the time.
Oh, yeah, they do this to me all the time.
Yeah, they do this to me all the time.
Right.
I don't know what the hell they do.
And the other one was the producer.
Whoever is producing this thing has no idea what they're doing.
That moved on, too, didn't it, Albert?
That, unfortunately, yes, it moved on. But it was a very valiant effort by Jim Avila, the new entry, Ma'am, I'm on the phone.
Oh, Ma'am, I'm on the phone did take it. I noticed that. Yeah, it took it to the very end.
It was a lot closer.
Yeah.
It was a lot closer than we expected. So I was really pulling for it. I might have also voted multiple times. We don't know. We won't know.
That would be a scandal emerging right out of the commissioner's office, Kim.
Yes, it would, actually.
Yeah. Well, again, you don't have to have a bracket to participate. You vote for the drop that you think should go on to the next round. That's the way March Madness works. You've heard these drops a bunch of times. If you're a regular listener viewer,
I'm on the phone.
You are just beginning to get to know them if you're a new listener viewer. But everybody can participate in March Madness. It's free. And there are a bunch of brackets, and we can update the brackets later in the week. We even have celebrity brackets, and I haven't even asked the commissioner how those are doing. But in this first hour,
I can't believe it.
Let's get it started. There are 2 new ones that you'll vote. Only one can continue to the next round. Either we go with...
We have processes and protocols and standards.
Or you go with...
My bad. I'm sorry.
No, that's going to be tough to beat, I think.
No,
We have processes and protocols and standards.
Or you vote for...
My bad. I'm sorry.
You can vote until midnight tonight in the community section of our YouTube channel, and good luck! I also would say that you can vote right now, right, Albert, in the chat.
Yeah.
And in the YouTube poll, which Albert has up.
Yep, in the live chat YouTube poll. But if not, if you're watching in replay, just go to the community tab on the Mark Thompson show page. So on the YouTube page, not on the YouTube video, go to the show page.
Okay. So that is that. And I like that we're giving so many viewers and listeners who are joining and watching in replay a chance to vote on this. So the community vote continues until midnight. And if you go to our, again, as Albert says, you go to our channel, you'll see live, you'll see videos, you'll see shorts, and you'll see community. Community is what you want. And in there, you'll see the poll, and you can vote for one or the other.
Don't you think that should be a clean sweep with My Bad? I mean, My Bad should run away with it.
Well, it's funny you say this. I hate to say what my bracket is because I feel like it
you don't want to influences
the voting. What happens is people think, oh, well, whatever Mark's chosen, I want to vote against that. That's usually how it works. Yeah.
There's never been anything like this.
So I'm not going to tell you what I voted for and what I think is going to happen and what I will be voting for. Sure. But anyway, that's I agree with you, I guess I'm saying that Whoopi seems to have an edge over processes, protocols, and standards. But again, it's either a process,
we have processes and protocols and standards,
or it's the Whoopi that you know and love.
My bad. Yeah. I'm sorry.
All right. So, Kim, I adore you.
Yeah, you have to go to work.
It is your show. I'll rejoin to kind of remind people how to vote and all that stuff. And you can update the voting at the end of the hour. But again, voting continues until midnight. So
get out of here.
Good luck. Have a great show.
Sucker.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Good morning to you. That was Mark Thompson, and he will be interspersed throughout the show talking about Mark's Madness. I'm Kim McAllister along with Albert. How are you, Albert?
I'm good. I miss Mark, and I'm sad that producer has no idea actually moved on in Mark's Madness. But, you know, we could just we'll move on from that and hope they don't make it through the next round.
You can't get rid of it. It's stuck with the show. It's you know, it's just one of those things. It's too good. It's too good. So we're going to have videos from Mark interspersed through the show today, tomorrow, and Wednesday. Mark, you know, it's one of these things. He's got a paying job, and you can't say no to that. So he's off at KFI in Los Angeles working today, tomorrow, and Wednesday. So we'll be here keeping the home fires burning in his stead. But we have a great show for you today. We are going to, you saw the news over the weekend, former President Trump saying he's going to be arrested and calling for protests. We've got a special episode with D.Katz coming in to talk about that coming up. Of course, it is Monday, so Courtney will be along to do Mark's Murder Mystery Monday. And we'll talk about AI with Robert Scoble. He's one of the top AI guys out there. And we'll talk about what the future looks like and all this open chat GPT and see if he can kind of figure it out for us and help us understand what our future might look like. So one of the things I wanted to talk about before we move in is an earthquake that happened this morning in San Jose. And I kind of the news person in me just wants to make sure everyone knows we had a magnitude 3.0 earthquake happened a little after 9 a.m. in the Seven Trees neighborhood of San Jose. And apparently no reports of damage or injuries, only a 3.0. But we start this morning off with a little bit of shaking going on. As we wait for D.Katz, do we have D.Katz ready to rock and roll?
He is standing by. He is ready.
Okay, well, let's bring him on in. Thank you, Tony. Thank you, Albert. See if we can. Hi, D.Katz.
Hi, great to be with you.
Hi, good morning. So I read over the weekend this incredible story from former President Trump, where he's convinced he is going to be arrested on Tuesday, and he's calling for protests in the street. Is there any, validity to the idea that he'll be arrested this week?
He probably is going to be arrested later this week. It may not be Tuesday, as he put on his Truth Social.
Yeah.
But given the timing, it seems like there's only one more session of the grand jury. And normally what they do is after that final witness They present the indictment. It's already drafted. The grand jurors have probably kicked around the topics already. They have a pretty good idea what's coming and against whom, which is presumably former President Trump, and they're ready to vote guilty on the counts that the DA is going to present. The idea that it's a great debating society, the grand jury really isn't that anymore. It's become just a tool for the prosecution. I don't mean that there's anything nefarious in this case. That's kind of what it is. And then the idea is that you get your real due process at trial. You get to put on your defense. You get to see all the evidence. All 12 jurors have to convict you unanimously beyond a reasonable doubt. But this bulwark of liberty that the grand jury was intended by the framers to be, it just hasn't worked out that way, either in the state or in the federal courts.
There is speculation also from the grand jury that the charges that will be brought revolve around racketeering and conspiracy. Have you heard about that?
That's what the prosecutors had wanted to do. Remember, under the previous district attorney, who was named Cyrus Vance Jr., it looked like this case was kind of all ready to go with multiple charges, including a broader conspiracy and racketeering, and not just the, paying off the porn star and filing records that were then inaccurate because they claimed it was legal fees when in fact it was reimbursement for a payoff to lawyer Cohn. But they were supposed to be broader charges, Kim, and we're just going to have to see. You remember the controversy was that these charges were not brought soon after Vance ceased being the district attorney. After Bragg won the district attorney job, he had these two prosecutors, special prosecutors. One was from private practice, and they were all ready to go. The thing was that Bragg, the newly elected DA, was not ready to go, and when he balked, the two of them very publicly quit. One of them has since written a book. So it's a bit of a mystery how broad the charges are going to be, but there's also speculation they'll be very narrow, that it will just be this one payoff and how it was listed in the books, Kim, and that it was not listed properly, and that's the felony. But it's only a felony if Trump specifically knew and intended that it be a violation of New York campaign financing law. And whether they can prove that beyond a reasonable doubt with some paperwork and with Cohn remains to be seen, and has some people worried that Trump might actually walk on that at the end of the day.
He is, former President Trump, calling for protests should he be arrested. And so I wonder, it struck me as so selfish. You're not calling for protests over an issue. I'll just, bring up issues that I think were worthy of protests over the years: a war, apartheid, something greater than yourself, right? Black Lives Matter, whatever the issue, you're calling for protests specifically for you. It just seems a little bit, on brand, I guess you could say, but still, whoo.
Those are just great comments. Yes, it's on brand. Yes, it's very selfish. I think at the end of the day, that threat, because people remember so bitterly what happened on January 6th. Even Speaker McCarthy's come out and said, let the process play out. There's no need to do that. They don't want to be tagged with yet another huge riot or with, loss of life. The top Republicans don't. And so I think they're trying to avoid that. But yes, Trump is, he's willing to burn the house down. If he's going, it's like people say about Putin. If Putin's going down, he may be willing to burn the house down. And Trump has hit me as being that same sort of unbelievably narcissistic, egomaniacal personality. Obviously, others will disagree with me, but that's been my take on him over the years.
There's another story regarding Trump, not to trumpet to death, but apparently in the Georgia case, his attorneys, and I guess maybe to you it's an obvious move. To me, it's kind of over the top. But his attorneys, Trump's attorneys, are asking for a judge to toss out the final report and the evidence from a special grand jury in Georgia, the overturning the 2020 election grand jury. They just want, is that even realistic? I'm sorry, we don't agree with your report. We want it tossed and we want all the evidence tossed. What?
Well, right. If it's on the basis of the forewoman talking to the press, there was no harm from that. They didn't taint the jury pool. Anybody in the Atlanta area who hasn't heard about this case and hasn't formed an impression about it, which is the person that they won on the jury ultimately, so they have 12 impartial jurors, that person was not tainted by the fact that the forewoman held a couple of press conferences. They've been tainted by a whole lot of other publicity. So that truly is a small drop in the bucket, what the foreperson had to say. And the rest of it, they're an investigatory grand jury. They have a right to investigate. They called in witnesses. They investigated. They litigated some of the motions. The courts agreed that someone like Senator Graham had to testify and had to answer questions. Some other people, like Giuliani, said, oh, well, I can't really go to Georgia. Remember, and the judge said, get on a train, get on a plane, right? Get on a horse, but get yourself to Georgia. You're going to be in contempt of court. And Giuliani got himself to Georgia. So I really don't see that there are any bases at all. And, you know, Trump's lawyers could have litigated at the time. So could some of the other targets have litigated at the time. Let's assume for a second that they had tried to get his attorneys records of meetings with Trump. That's the kind of thing that Eastman has challenged, that his lawyer has challenged in the special prosecutor. And they've tended to lose. From what we know about them, I think they've won some, but the ones that we've heard about, Kim, they've lost. They've said this was the crime fraud exception. You were committing more likely than not a crime or fraud with your attorney. Therefore, the attorney-client privilege does not protect those particular records. And so that hasn't tainted the grand jury or tainted the report because they had a chance to litigate it. And it only got turned over to the grand jury if a judge said that's not attorney-client privilege. Now, can they later on, after a conviction in Georgia, attack some of those things again and go all the way through the Georgia courts and maybe go up to the U.S. Supreme Court on what's called a writ of certiorari to the Georgia courts? Maybe. And given that it's Trump and how high profile it is, probably more than maybe. But there's nothing that I've seen so far, Kim, that shows that there's been any error that would reverse either a grand jury indictment if it comes down in Georgia state court against Trump, or that would reverse a conviction. From what we've seen so far, of course, the trial hasn't even started yet. The grand jury hasn't even issued a final indictment in Georgia state court.
A former assistant U.S. attorney in Los Angeles, D.Katz. I have some more questions for you because I was reading a story on CNN this morning where they were talking about who would arrest former President Trump should he be arrested. And I wonder how it works because I think all former presidents have a secret security detail, right? So how does that work out? I mean, if the Secret Service agents on Trump's detail just acquiesce to the FBI, should they come to try to arrest him? Then they have to stand guard over him in jail, in a jail cell? What do you think how is this going to play out?
I think those are excellent questions. And, you know, we used to talk about a teaching moment. And I know it's Trump and people have such strong impressions about Trump. But I think it's a teaching moment because, you know, and you could say that this is special pleading because this is what I do for a living. I'm a white-collar criminal defense attorney. I have people who really don't need to be handcuffed. They don't even need to be arrested. And sometimes, you know, in my impression, the prosecutors, you know, want to act like cowboys and, you know, cowgirls and, play perp walk, you know, about that, where they want the target, the person that they've just charged. They want to give them the perpetrator's walk, the perp walk. And you remember the guy who was the head of the IMF? He ended up having to quit the International Monetary Fund, but he never was convicted. At the end of the day, he never was convicted of anything, but here was the head of the UN being made to perp walk in New York City. And obviously there's a lot of people who would like to see Trump perp walk for the humiliation that it is. And there's a lot of people on Trump's side who'd like to have that not occur because they understand the mental image, the humiliation that it is. And I've seen that in my own cases. And all I can say is I think it's a teaching moment because I think it's unnecessary. I think if I had been the district attorney elected in New York, I would have given him a summons. I wouldn't have asked that he be arrested. You know, during the pandemic, a lot of people had their arraignments on the telephone or over Zoom. There's no reason that he couldn't have had that. It would have saved an awful lot of money. He appears right by Zoom. They tell him your trial date is going to be July 1st. You understand that you have to show up. He says over the Zoom, everyone can see, yes, I understand the charges. I plead not guilty. I'll be there on July 1st. It all could have been handled that way. And so to me, this is really kind of overkill, the over drama that we see so often with the prosecutors, with the police. Having said that, yes, the Secret Service will deal with this like Eddie. Let's assume he was going to an amusement park, right? And as part of the ride, he had to put his hands in a little, a little handcuff thing. And then he'd go on the amusement ride, and then he and Melania would go about their business, right? Well, the Secret Service would do the same thing. Make sure it's safe, make sure nothing's going to happen. I don't think he'll actually be put in a prison cell. That's really, really overkill. That seems, again, like it's just for the Daily Mail purchase photo, right, of him standing behind bars in a New York prison cell.
Right.
That all seems very over the top. But yes, the fingerprinting, I understand the fingerprinting. At some point, he would have to be fingerprinted. The photograph, I mean, that certainly seems a little over the top. I think we know what Trump looks like if he never shows up in court again. I think we know. We know the person to go looking for. I don't think he's going to change his appearance that much. Although if he got rid of the whole hair thing, do you remember when Alex Murdoch down there in South Carolina, right? After he actually went from county jail to the penitentiary because the jury found him guilty. Suddenly his head looked totally different. Remember that? He didn't have that beautiful hairdo anymore.
Whatever,
God
right.
knows what Trump really looks like. But people should not expect that they're going to make him take off whatever that is and we're going to have a picture of him bald. I don't think we're going to have that with Trump.
Well, I know there's a lot of people that want those pictures, but I think you kind of make a good point where maybe those pictures aren't necessary, because I think you can see him laying the groundwork already in saying, well, this is what they're going to do to a president running in 2024. This is all about persecuting a candidate for president of the United States. So already kind of trotting out the fact that he's a candidate in unfair treatment. And so I wonder if maybe taking the pictures and doing the perp walk, as you say, might give him the ammunition he needs to say, look what they've done to me.
Well, I think it's very counterproductive. And, Kim, you and I have been talking on the radio with Pat Thurston since 2018. And if you remember that era, I'm sure you do, and your listeners do, that, Trump had everything at that point. He had the Senate, he had the Congress, he had a lot of the media on his side. He didn't have you and Pat Thurston. He didn't have the New York Times. He didn't have CNN that I was appearing on then. But he had a lot of, and he was appointing more and more federal judges all the time. And we were looking at the things that Trump was doing, the emoluments, the way that he was making money, just sticking money in his pocket, having foreign dignitaries pay $5,000 a night for a $500 room, and then meeting with him a few days later and having like Qatar and Saudi Arabia were running up $150,000 hotel tabs like it was nothing. At his restaurant, at his hotel in Washington, D.C. And then he did the thing with Zelensky where he wasn't going to release the arms that Ukraine desperately needed unless they did a hatchet job on the Bidens. And there was this quid pro quo. And then, of course, we saw the insurrection, which was so awful. And then we saw him keeping those classified documents, not the way Biden or Pence did, but in a way that it looked like he was going to lie to the government, obstruct justice, and keep them no matter what the law was. So we saw all of that by Trump. And so if I don't seem more excited about the fact that this 7-year-old case has reared its head, I call it the misdemeanor that roars. It's because, they say the old expression about attacking the king, or I think in this case it applies to the ex-king who's running for president again. But to attack the ex-king and convict him of a misdemeanor or convict him of something that a lot of people are going to see as a trifle, I think that is a little worrisome, and that's why I'm a little worried on this prong. Michael Cohen and Stormy Daniels. It's like, that's what it's about to be about. Now, people say, well, maybe this will embolden the other prosecutors, but the reality is that if that special prosecutor is going to charge Trump for things like the insurrection, for things like the classified documents, he's not going to be affected one way or the other. But the public. There is a public perception which seems very important. A lot of people think, why didn't Merrick Garland appoint this special prosecutor 2 years ago? Why didn't Merrick Garland charge these offenses 2 years ago, Kim? And I think it's fair to think that maybe it's because the January 6th committee did such a great job, and they publicized these in those very dramatic, informational hearings on what happened on January 6th and what led up to it, and the incendiary speech that Trump and his allies gave, and the not tamping it down for 3.5 hours, as Trump just watched it, in my opinion, on television, hoping it would work, and only called it off once he realized it hadn't worked. So it's like, why isn't he being charged with all of that? What is the status of that? Why are we in the middle of this? And I do want to say one other thing, and I don't mean to be a whataboutism person. I don't want to be a sky is falling person. But if you look at this, the feds had this charge. They had Michael Cohen, they had everything. The feds didn't go on it. You can say, well, they didn't go on it under Trump, but they also didn't go on it under Merrick Garland. Merrick Garland's been in office for 2 years. It's been timely. They could have followed up on co-conspirator number one, Trump, and charged him along with Michael Cohen in federal court for exactly what it looks like the DA is going to charge him with as a violation of federal law, not New York state law, but basically the same nucleus of facts. The attorney general decided not to do it. So what happens when we have Biden or we have Kamala Harris in the future, and the feds decide that something that Biden or Kamala Harris did isn't worthy of prosecution, and yet somebody, pick your town, Amarillo, Texas, Montgomery, Alabama, right? Some local DA decides, well, I don't care what the feds think. I don't care if the feds didn't go on ex-President Biden or ex-Vice President Harris. I'm going on this state charge. That is not, in my opinion, a good precedent. I know if they assault or hit somebody in Montgomery or in Amarillo, of course they should be charged. Nobody's above the law, but I'm a little troubled by this precedent. If the district attorney moves forward just on what's been talked about, the most limited thing they're talking about, a 7-year-old payoff that wasn't properly reported. Last thought, there's a lot of campaign contributions that aren't properly reported. Both political parties, a lot of different elections. I know what Trump did was worse. I know he did a lot more to cover it up. I know it's much more colorful, but I'm a little worried about the precedent this sets.
David Katz, this is why I love you so much, and I wanted to have you on. Thank you so much for your perspective. Always bringing a great commentary. I appreciate you. Criminal defense attorney now at David Katz Law, former assistant U.S. attorney. Thank you for being on the Mark Thompson Show.
Great to be with you.
Thank you. See you next time. Albert, we can look forward to David Katz again this week, right?
Yeah, in his usual time slot on Thursdays.
Thursday, that's right.
Thursday, and I guess not only will David Katz be back, Mark Thompson will also be back on Thursday.
See, it's the A-team coming in. Woohoo! Thank you, Albert. I appreciate that. Let's do a little bit of news, and then we'll get to Mark's Murder Mystery Monday. How about that?
Sounds good.
The Mark Thompson Show.
I'm Kim McAllister. This report sponsored by tax attorney Steve Moskowitz at 888 Tax Deal. Thank you to our founding sponsor, Steve Moskowitz. We always appreciate him as well. Wanted to get to some stories for you because, as we were just talking about, police in New York City are making now security preparations ahead of a possible arrest of former President Trump. He posted his Truth Social platform over the weekend that he expects to be arrested tomorrow. There's no confirmation of that claim yet, though, and Trump being investigated in a hush money case involving adult film actress Stormy Daniels. Today is technically the first day of spring, but doesn't much feel like it here in California. Several areas of our state drenched yesterday. A 12th atmospheric river moving in tomorrow. Forecasters say this storm mainly taking aim at the southern part of our state with up to 4 inches of rain and 80-mile-per-hour winds. Very possible. Back to Amazon, more job losses in the tech sector again. Amazon cutting another 9,000 jobs. That's what CEO Andy Jassy announced in a memo. The new round of cuts comes after more than 18,000 employees were let go from late last year into early this year. And President Biden is looking to tweak the nation's immigration rules, and that apparently is not sitting well with some Republicans. There's a move to allow some asylum seekers to stay in the United States while their court cases play out. Senator John Cornyn of Texas says that will be a magnet which attracts more illegal immigrants to the border. another train derailment, this time near the town of Sonoma in the North Bay, and cleanup is underway. Photos show 2 cars flipped over, happened Thursday night in Shellville, right near Sonoma, as the trains were carrying corn grain. You can see all that corn grain dumped right out onto the side of the tracks. The load spilled, made a big mess. No details yet as to how this happened or when the trains will be moving again. Yeah, San Francisco's Bay Bridge lights not really going quietly, I guess you could say. They already reset and came back on a week after they were supposed to go dark. Then over the weekend, some strands were on again. The nonprofit shut down the display to replace the bulbs and bring it back bigger and better. The founder says the lights seem to have a fierce spirit. He hopes it will inspire donations for a new display, hopefully by the end of the year. And all journalists say, gee, Elon Musk, thanks a lot. There you go. The Twitter sending the message to journalists on Sunday morning. Elon Musk tweeted, the company's automatic email reply system will now respond to all press requests with the poop emoji. Tons of Twitter users tested it out and posted the proof. So I guess that's what he thinks of journalists. That's also what we think of Elon Musk. Yeah. This report sponsored by tax attorney Steve Moskowitz. For more than 30 years, Steve has put his tax knowledge to work for individuals and for businesses. So if you need help with your taxes, Steve Moskowitz is the one to call. He is at 888-TAX-DEAL and MoskowitzLLP.com. I'm Kim McAllister, and this is The Mark Thompson Show.
The Mark Thompson Show.
It was great. I loved it.
How would you handle this? We could try ignoring it, sir.
Morning.
You cannot say you love your country.
Where are my weed smokers at?
Stay at home and get baked.
The Mark Thompson Show.
I am back just to remind you we're in the middle of March.
Mark's Madness.
I can't take it. Oh my God, we got a hot one going. You vote for either.
We have processes and protocols and standards.
Or you vote for.
My bad. I'm sorry.
Again, it's either.
We have processes and protocols and standards.
Or it's the whoopee.
My bad. I'm sorry.
Voting till midnight tonight in the community section of our YouTube channel, but right now in the chat and right now in the poll on YouTube. Good luck! Working up a sweat. It's all you, Kim.
I have
See
a
you next
question.
hour.
No, don't go.
A question in front. Yes, Kim.
So what
please.
happens if you lose one bracket early on? Does that mean your whole bracket is shot, or do you still have a chance as you go on?
Well, Albert, I feel like you should answer this as the commissioner.
Bracket expert. I just wondered.
It's not that your bracket loses. Oh, maybe it does. Please, Albert. Please,
it just depends on what your champion is. Like in the real March
Albert,
Madness, there are schools like Arizona and other favorites that have lost in the first round. So those brackets are busted. So if you picked one of the drops that we've already had and they didn't make it, it's not looking good. But there's still a chance.
Okay.
As long as one of the few of your picks make it far, you have a chance.
So the brackets work not. You don't have to have a perfect bracket. You don't have to have picked everything perfectly.
Right.
The brackets that have the most points and the most correct, if you want to think of it that way, in terms of points, that will be, and that's all in there. So it's automatically tabulated. You can check your rankings and your standings all the time, and those, and we'll review them for you too.
Okay.
And we'll review who's ahead. And it's a little early to start doing it, but as I say, we'll look at the celebrity brackets anyway. Bottom line is you can still be very much in it and win it, even if you don't predict things
and
accurately.
what did you get if you win?
How are you?
Yeah. What's that?
What do you get if you win?
Well,
grand prize.
You get nothing.
It is. Yeah, I don't know that you get nothing, but I mean it's a
new car.
No, it's not a new car.
No,
it is not a new
that.
car.
No.
No, you get. As I was saying, first of all, you get our respect, which is, I think that should count for something.
What? There's never been anything like this.
Yeah. You also, we do have some kind of prize. We've talked to Tenuta Vineyards. They might provide something. And so we're getting some kind of modest prize package together.
Okay.
But people are in it to win it, Kim. They're not in it to get the gift basket.
Okay, I hear what you're saying.
Particularly when we have a bad track record of getting gifts to those who are the actual recipients.
Don't count on your trophy. Don't count on your prize. I'm sorry. My bad. I'm
sorry. My bad. Again, it's either...
We have processes and protocols and standards.
Either processes, protocols, and standards, or my bad.
My bad. I'm sorry.
You have till midnight. Vote in the community section or in the YouTube poll right now or in the chat. All right. Back to you, Kim.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Oh, Mark Thompson, how we love you. Mark will be back again, interspersed throughout the show, talking about Mark's Madness. A lot of questions. Albert, we got a question from someone about if too many brackets are too busted to go on, will there be a Sweet 16 pool?
That's a great idea, but no. Nah, there won't be. There's you lose, you go home. So I'm sorry.
That's it.
My bad. I'm sorry.
My bad indeed. What's it look like right now?
There's a slight lead for Oprah. It's a lot closer than we thought. I thought Oprah was going to run away with this. I actually, I actually don't want to reveal what my bracket says, but I have Oprah going pretty deep. So.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, that's what we're looking at as with Mark's Madness. So get your votes in right now. Let's play. Let's get it going.
I said Oprah. Now, I meant Whoopi. Whoopi Goldberg. My bad. I'm sorry.
I'm
Not
sorry.
Oprah.
Yeah.
Oprah is also popular,
what?
but
yeah.
No, I also have Whoopi going for it.
All right, let's move on because Courtney's got a great story for us today. It's one of the things I love about filling in on a Monday. We ditch Albert and it becomes the all-girls show. So let's bring her in. No offense, Albert.
Welcome to Mark's
Red Rum.
Murder
Red Rum.
Mystery
Red Rum.
Monday.
Of course, she is Mark's better half, obviously. It is Courtney with Mark's Murder Mystery Monday. How are you, sister?
Oh, I'm well. Thank you for having me. I agree. I love it when it's the women running the show. So
it is. It's just, it's so un-Mark-like that it becomes my favorite part of the whole thing. So, question for you. I don't know. This is not a story that I've heard at all before. So it's kind of like when you're sitting around the campfire and the ghost story begins and you have no idea what it is or where it's going. So I'm pretty excited to hear what you have to talk about today. Yes. Courtney?
Yes, sorry.
Okay. Like where Courtney's gone. Oh no, she's in the wood chipper. No.
Sorry, I'm trying to silence everything so you don't hear crazy background noises.
Oh, totally understand.
So yeah, this story actually came to me from several people on Twitter. And then also I believe Calvin Wong as well, who is also my better half.
The shadow producer of the show, yes.
Had said this to me, yeah. And it's really interesting because I got a lot of requests for California-based stories. And so this is definitely one of those stories that she was in California when she died, but she was originally from Wisconsin. But it is definitely a story that also remains unsolved. So not only is it somewhat infamous, but it remains unsolved. And that is the murder of Krista Helm. Yeah. So Krista was born in Wisconsin.
She looks like a movie star.
I know.
Doesn't she?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
She was born there, but she moved to LA eventually to be in the movies. She was a model. She was sort of a burgeoning movie star. She definitely had important sort of circles of friends and was definitely friends with movers and shakers in Hollywood. And she was pursuing an acting career, as I mentioned, at the time of her death. She does look a lot like Sharon Tate, and she actually dated Roman Polanski, which is really interesting.
Weird.
Yeah.
That is really weird.
I know, it is. It is very strange. But she was beautiful, and she had a daughter that she loved more than anything in the world. And so, but I'll give you a little backstory on Krista. So if you go to the next slide. She was born Sandra Lynn Wolfel, and she was born, as I mentioned, in Wisconsin. She had a somewhat difficult childhood. I think her mother was an alcoholic and created a really kind of environment in the home that was a lot of turmoil. So she ended up living with her father, but she always had ambitions to do more than marry and sort of keep a home. She wanted to be in the movies. She wanted to be famous. And so she really pursued that for most of her life. She met a man, if you go to the next slide, sorry, for anybody who is listening to this, I actually got a lot of my information from a website, which was Who Killed Krista Helm. So there are definitely people that have dedicated a lot of resources, energy, time toward finding the killer of Krista Helm. So if you want to reference any of the photos that I'm walking through or any additional information, that was a great website that helped me a lot. So if you go to the next slide, Krista Helm, she grows up in the home mainly with her father. She meets a man who ran a karate studio. His name was Gary Clements, and she gets pregnant with Gary when she was very young. There are a lot of different reported information pieces to this story that are somewhat in conflict with one another. So like ages and I don't know, times that she was moving and different things that she appeared in, and also roles that people played. So I'm going to do my best to give you as accurate information as I have. But she marries Gary Clement, and she has a little girl. But she has a little girl first, and she actually marries Gary. And I believe the very next day after she marries Gary Clement, he goes missing. Now, the rumor is that he was somehow tied to the mob. And so he either got out of town or he was forced out of town.
Oh.
He had some cement shoes there. Yeah.
The day after she marries this guy who she has a child with, he's gone.
Yes. Yes.
Wow.
And she's a single mother. I know. And she's young. She's like, some reports have her as 16, some have her as 17. He was roughly 27 to like 30 years old, somewhere in that range. Yeah.
Is he ever declared dead, or he's just missing and that's the end of him?
Yeah, he's never found. He's never declared dead. She tells people he died in a car accident, but there were more rumors about him having to leave town. And so he left. Yeah, he left the day after he got married, and he was never found. And so she becomes a single mom to this sweet little girl named Nicole. I know it's, and actually becomes important later, but because Gary ran a karate studio, Krista was well-versed in karate. Like she knew self-defense. So that actually becomes important in the night of her murder.
Okay.
And so if you go to the next slide, so Krista is in Wisconsin. She goes to a party and she meets some people that are hiring for Playboy, and she's offered a job as a Playboy bunny. And she wants to go to Chicago because I guess that was where the biggest club was for the Playboy clubs, Playboy enterprises. And that doesn't work out. So
they do very well in Chicago, I guess. Okay.
Exactly. So she goes to New York and she pursues, as I mentioned before, modeling, acting. She's kind of running in these sort of highfalutin circles, if you will. She meets a man named Stuart Duncan, and his family was the founders and the creators of Lee and Perrins, which it does Worcester sauce.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Lee and Perrins steak sauce. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he actually built a home called Bonnie Crest. If you Google it, you'll see it's this one of these giant mansions in Rhode Island or, Long Island. It was extraordinary, but he really funds a lot of her lifestyle as she's in New York. He becomes an important benefactor, I guess, in her life. And then she also meets a gentleman who's on the right side. If you're looking at these photos, his name is Lenny, and he's a costume designer, and he actually becomes a really important influence in her life, helps her go to LA and get into films. And some of his clients were Judy Garland. He did a lot of stuff for Broadway. Stuart Duncan actually financed the play and the musical Godspell, and he gave a piece of the business, to Krista. So she ended up making quite a bit of money from that investment that Stuart helped her with.
How do you find people like that to just give you money? That's what I want to. Are these sugar daddy kind of situations?
I mean, without saying it, I would say,
Yeah.
probably, yeah. I think
You don't get something for nothing, ladies. Yep.
I mean, as you unpack this story, it becomes very clear that Stuart was taking care of her, but Krista was and had always kept a journal, and that actually becomes an important part of this story. Is Krista has a little black book, and she keeps a diary of all of the, shall we say, relationships that she has.
A la Heidi Fleiss, eh?
Yeah.
Okay.
And so she has this little black book, and she's had it since childhood. In fact, one of her childhood friends was surprised that she still had this journal, but in this journal, it was a more adult version, shall we say, of what she would have kept as a child. And this becomes important because this black book has all the secrets of anybody that she's had sort of sexual relations with. And that's both men and women.
How sad that you actually need a book to keep track that there's so many.
I know. It's I've
never needed a book.
There's a reason that this place is fun.
It reminds me of how boring my life is. But,
exactly. Where's my book? Damn it.
It's really interesting too, because like in the book, there features a night, I think, with several partners. And it's funny because a lot of the podcasts I was listening to and information I was reading didn't want to talk about the man that was in this night of several partners, that he was so famous that at the time, which was in the 1970s, the police were concerned that by outing him through this rumor that people were talking about his being featured in this book, that it might ruin his career.
Oh.
Both crazy and strange, but
Wow.
that actor was actually George Hamilton. Yeah.
Oh,
so,
okay.
But that doesn't happen until she gets to LA. So she leaves New York and she goes to LA. She's in this film, Let's Go for Broke, which is really like what started her acting career. She had been in some stuff like Wonder Woman and Starsky and Hutch, but very small bit parts. And so this was where she played a lead. So she goes to LA and she's making a life for herself in LA. Her daughter was with what some reports call a babysitter, but I think it was some sort of family friend that took care of elderly people and also children, which sounds a little strange. But her daughter is around. She's just not with Krista as she's pursuing these goals and ambitions again of being a model and an actress. So she goes to LA and she's making her way in LA. If you go down, she's living with a woman named Stephanie. And she's definitely, as I mentioned, she's kind of meeting all these famous people. She's seeing a lot of famous people. And she goes to a party on February 11th in Laurel Canyon with her roommate, Stephanie. And Stephanie is going away for the weekend. And so she gives Krista her car. And at some point, Krista goes to visit a friend. And I believe that friend's name is Sam Smith. I'm actually doing this whole story by memory because I've listened to so many things and read so many things. I'm usually looking at notes, but I'm really
impressed.
I really was into this story because this woman was just such an incredible feminist, right? And powerful figure. And this really horrible thing happened and it remains unsolved. So it's Sandy Smith. So she goes to Sandy's house. He had just had a party earlier in the night and he had sort of gotten everybody to leave the home and apparently had gone to sleep. And as she pulls up to Sandy's home, she gets out of her car and she's killed right there in the street. She's stabbed 22 times.
Stabbed. Oh,
yeah.
Man.
So
they say those stabbings can be more personal.
Yeah. Yes.
I don't know, the difference between a shooting or a stabbing, but I guess the closeness, and the brutality where you have to do it yourself, it kind of indicates that there's more of a personal connection there.
Yeah, no, it does. It does. And especially as they call it, overkill. So being stabbed 22 times. Yeah, exactly. And they're not sure if the person was lying in wait there, knew she was going to Sandy's house, or if the person followed her. There are rumors of both. And I've covered up some of the photos that were a little, what I felt maybe gruesome. So I didn't want to offend anybody, but you definitely, if you have further interest in the murder scene in the case, again, you can go to whokilledkristahelm.com. But she stabbed 22 times. And actually, the actor John Bryce, he is the boyfriend in White Lotus of Jennifer Coolidge's character. He was in Napoleon Dynamite. His father directed Helter Skelter. He heard what happened that night. He was living in a home that was just around the corner, which was his mother's house. And he heard what happened, but a different person finds her at 1:30 in the morning. So this is the autopsy report. There's a couple different slides, but I just brought this in to show sort of the to your point, the overkill that happened, the many times that she was stabbed, unfortunately that night, both on her back and her front sides. So if you go to the next slide, I think it's, so this gentleman, Thurman Brooms, finds her, and I think it's about 1:30 in the morning. He actually stumbles upon her at 1:35, and they said that the time of death was 1:30. And part of his account was that he saw her take her last breath. So it could have happened. It's close enough where Thurman Brooms could have seen her take her last breath. He goes to Sandy's house. He knocks on the door. Sandy's not answering. So he drives to a police station in West Hollywood, and he has the police come out. And of course, they find Krista there in the street. Krista was actually slightly under Sandy Smith's girlfriend's car. You know, just it's sort of further explaining that she was so close to getting inside, and she had just left her car. Her keys were actually clutched under her chest in her hand. And what was missing when Thurman found her and when the police arrived was her purse. And what was in her purse? Her little black book. She took a little black book everywhere. So again, the police thought at first this was a robbery, but it became very clear that her death could have been tied to this little black book and what could have happened with, you know, the intimate secrets that were in that book. Yep. Yep. So if you go down, there's Thurman actually, I should mention, is killed just 2 years later. Yeah. Really tragic story. I know. There's a lot of
everybody's dying
that kind of come from this story. Yeah. A lot of people,
you know, they do this to me all the time. I don't know what the hell they do it for.
No.
But so I mentioned the book is gone. There's actually somebody that everyone I think in the audience will know who's listening or watching. If you go down, Albert. So Tony Sirico, he's also known as Paulie Walnuts from The Sopranos. He actually plays a role in this. Yeah. So after Krista dies, he's hired to kind of watch her best friend. He's sort of a thug for hire, but he's also an actor. He was working with or in the Colombo, I want to say, mafia family in New York. And so he moves to LA and he's pursuing acting, but he's also this sort of thug for hire. And so he's hired to take care of Stephanie. But the rumor is that he went into Krista's bedroom and took some of her clothes and some of these tapes that she had made, where she had actually taped some of these intimate encounters without the knowledge or the consent of the people that she was having those relationships with.
So maybe she was blackmailing some people.
Yes, that is also a theory. Yeah.
Ooh, it's a wild idea, but it just might work.
Exactly. And so the murder remains unsolved. Yeah, the really interesting thing that has happened more and sort of more contemporarily around this murder is that they tested the DNA under Krista's fingers, and it belongs to an unidentified woman. So at some point, the blood DNA, that were under her fingers belonged to a woman. If you go to the next slide, I think I have photos of two women who are thought to be suspects. Both disappeared immediately after the murder. No one has ever found them. I know, it's very strange. Debbie Daniels on the left, beautiful young woman. She actually found Krista having relations with her boyfriend. So there was a thought that maybe there was some, animosity there. And then on the right-hand side is Patty Collins. Both of them, I think, were backup singers for Krista, who was also making an album and doing some other stuff in music.
Of course she was.
She was really busy. I mean, I don't even know. I have something to do tonight. I'm already tired. But this woman was making movies and TV shows and modeling and music and also keeping a diary. But Patty Collins was a woman that she dated. And I guess Patty was a very jealous woman of the male relationships that Krista was having. So there are two prime suspects actually in her murder.
So she dated a woman as well?
Yeah, she dated a woman as well.
And so then maybe then this woman was upset that she was sleeping around and making tapes of her liaisons with men.
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly. Yeah. And
I think you should ding me for liaisons, Albert. I'll take it.
That is a ding word.
Thank you.
But yeah, and so I've covered most of the suspects. I know it's a very long story, but there's so much to cover in the short life that Krista had. She died when she was 27. I know.
What became of her daughter then?
If you go to the last slide, her daughter, that's a great question. Nicole Clements. So again, you can find Nicole's photos online. She has two adorable sons. Actually, the murder was cold and nobody was, it wasn't sort of reinvigorated by the police, but Nicole got the police to look back into the cold case. So Nicole has been pursuing the suspect or the person who killed her mother for a very long time. So I guess she had her two sons, and she was, through that experience, she was really driven to figure out the mystery around her mother's murder. I think becoming a mom, she was reminded of sort of that important part of her life and trying to figure out what had happened. So
when the stabbing happens, and I mean, okay, you've got your keys in your hand, you're getting in the car, it's the middle of the night. But you did say that she had martial arts self-defense experience. But I guess, when you're attacked like that, you don't maybe react quickly? Or if there's someone with a knife and martial arts isn't going to help you? I don't know.
Yeah, no, it's a great question. So she did have defensive wounds. So she had defensive wounds on her body. So she was fighting back. There are a couple theories behind it. The first is, they never found a murder weapon, but they believed it was a large butcher knife, and they believe that she was surprised from the back. So it might have been that the injuries were so grave at first that it really hindered her ability to fight off her attacker. There were other rumors that it was maybe two people. Some of the ear witnesses, because most people were ear witnesses, nobody actually saw the murder happening. Except for Thurman Brooks, who came upon her body. They thought they heard more than two people. So, there are suggestions that she just might have been overtaken by that. But yeah, it's a really interesting thing to know that something that happened, 10 years before her murder, this sort of karate education or learning that she had come by through Gary Clements would ultimately come in to be very important at this moment in her life. But yeah,
I'm struck by the fact that she had her husband disappear the day after the wedding.
I know.
The two suspects managed to just go poof and disappear as well. It just shows you that I feel like it's hard to disappear, that it seems so complicated to just disappear, probably because we live in today's world where there's an electronic footprint of you no matter where you go. There's cameras everywhere, whatever. And maybe back then it was easier to just, kind of vanish.
Yeah, no, you're right. I mean,
so many people in her life are just gone. Yeah.
They're just gone. And no, you're right. And the interesting thing too is how many of these murders are being solved through modern technology. which I guess is obvious, but it's just crazy how many of these DNA samples are later able to, fortunately, help in the discovery of these suspects. But yeah, you're right. I mean, it doesn't mean very much if you can't find the perpetrator to question them or, arrest them. So yeah, it's a really interesting story. And there are more suspects. There is more information. It's really, really a extraordinarily surprising and different kind of story to cover. But I'm trying to give you the highlights, which is,
fascinating story.
To cover everything. The highlights, I guess, in the sense of like what you might be able to look at and sort of what the police are looking at and still trying to, find the person who perpetrated this crime.
So interesting. And I love that her daughter hasn't stopped looking for justice,
Yeah, no, it's true. I mean, her daughter has committed her life, in part to finding the person that murdered her mother. So
such a good story. Before I let you go, there was another story, and I don't know if you have any information. Feel free to just say, I don't know. But there was a body being exhumed in connection with the case out of South Carolina. And I wondered if you've been following it. This is the body of Stephen Smith.
Oh, yeah. With the Murdaugh.
Yeah. What do you know? Yeah. What can you tell us about this story? Because I think this is really weird.
Oh my God. So the Murdaugh family had like several bodies before the horrific event that happened with the mother and the son, right? Mm-hmm. And of Alec Murdaugh. And so his son Buster, who was not killed, who is alive, it was alleged that he killed this young man, Stephen Smith. And Stephen Smith was, he was openly gay. And it was alleged that he had a relationship with Buster. And it was alleged that Buster killed him. Now, I believe that the reports of his murder was that it was a hit and run. But in speaking with Stephen's mom, his injuries didn't show what would have been a hit and run. It looked very much like he was killed and his body dumped. And I don't know enough about his injuries to speak directly to that, but there were rumors that Buster was tied to this killing. And so you're right. I think they are exhuming the body to relook at what happened.
Yeah, I knew you would know about that. Thank you for that update. Yeah, I appreciate it so much. You are super awesome.
Thank you
Thank you for being here.
Thank you. Yeah.
Have a great rest of your day. And I look forward to next Monday to hear your next story.
Yes. We'll talk then. Thank you.
Courtney, everybody. Yay.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you. Please make sure to click the like button.
Murder Mystery Monday on the Mark Thompson Show.
Please make sure to click the like button for Courtney. We appreciate her coming on the show.
Smash it with your iron rod.
Do we have another video from Mark to run?
We do. Yeah, we do have another run for the 11 o'clock hour. We can get to that right now.
Yeah, let's do it. And then let's do some news as well.
Okay.
The Mark Thompson Show.
I am back just to remind you we're in the middle of March Madness.
Mark's Madness.
Right, I can't take it. Oh my.
Sorry, I played the wrong one. Here, let's go. Restart on that.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Who's Mark Thompson?
Come on, everybody. Put it together. Very exciting. Kim, great show so far.
Thank you.
Very excited. Hour 2, we've got it full underway. This is the second big week, and this is the first full week of Mark's Madness.
Now, I can't believe it. Mark's Madness.
There were some sick upsets over the weekend in March Madness. We have yet to see a real upset in Mark's Madness.
Yeah.
And this hour, it's these two going up against each other. It's either
seriously, what the
or it's
If you get it in order, you get extra points.
all right. So again, either vote for
seriously, what the
or
If you get it in order, you get extra points.
voting till midnight tonight on the community section of our YouTube channel. You can vote in the community section till midnight. Right now, you can vote in the chat. You vote for, as I say, either the
seriously, what the
or the.
If you get it in order, you get extra points.
You know, Commissioner, I feel like if you get it in order was so like, I don't know, 2018, 2019, but it's had some staying power.
It's still applicable, yeah.
No. Okay.
It's one of my favorites because
Yeah.
it does apply to a lot of things we talk about. We talk about lists, we talk about numbers, and then we end up hitting that drop, and it always plays well. But you're right; it is an old one. It's grandfathered in. It made it far into the brackets before, so they earned their way back into this year. We'll see. They're not as high a seed as they used to be, but we'll see if they could go far again.
And the other thing I was going to ask you, just apropos of that, for lack of a better word, and apropos, I tried to avoid it, but it is,
Ding it.
it is dingable, yeah. Is something I was hearing both in the comments, and I also got some email. The email is, of course, the Mark Thompson Show at gmail.com. It was about the Dr. Phil drops, and that there are no Dr. Phil drops in the entire tournament. Somebody was several people were annoyed with this, Albert. Can you speak to that, please?
What?
And how the choices were made as to who made it. There are just not enough spots, are there?
Not enough spots, and Dr. Phil did not have a good regular season. Dr. Phil's defense wasn't as great as it has been. So, and they had a poor showing in their conference tournament. So you know you gotta play well. You gotta do well just to make it to the dance. And he didn't do well enough.
I don't think you should
apologize.
apologize for how you feel.
I'd like
Yeah, go ahead.
I'd like to comment on the coolness of your hat.
No, thank you. It is the Mark's Madness hat, which you can pick up at getmarkmerch.com if you want to represent during Mark's Madness.
Yeah.
You can get a hat just like this. I literally bought it off of getmarkmerch.com. But I do like it, and I do wear it for the length of the tournament.
But that doesn't mean that it's a good thing.
Well, maybe it's not a good thing, but I'm... Again, this hour, we're voting for either...
Seriously, what the
or the Trump drop.
If you get it in order, you get extra points.
So it's Trump,
That's
order,
hard.
or seriously. Yeah, it is hard. It's a hard life, Kim. Nothing is easy. You know, this is no picnic, no summer camp.
This is no picnic, no summer camp.
Exactly. That's what I wanted to say. Kim is riding herd over things today. Vote now in Mark's Madness. Mark Thompson Show.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Kim, you're muted. Sorry.
No, I just realized it. I am Kim McAllister, and this is the news on the Mark Thompson Show. Florida's governor says he cannot speak to exactly what happened in the case of former President Trump allegedly paying money to adult film actress Stormy Daniels to keep her quiet. But, and I have a picture for you, Republican Ron DeSantis, there they are together, a happy couple. Republican Ron DeSantis did go after the Manhattan District Attorney in New York City ahead of a possible indictment of Trump. DeSantis accused DA Alvin Bragg of ignoring crimes that are happening under his watch and going after something that happened years ago, while adding there's proof Bragg is chasing something that is political in nature. Okay. The second largest school district in the nation is just days away from shutting its doors for several days. That is because employees with the Los Angeles Unified School District are planning to strike. This comes after the district's request for an injunction that would have stopped the strike was denied on Sunday. The first officers to arrive at the Uvalde, Texas shooting last year claim that they didn't engage with the gunman because he was using an AR-15. That is according to the Texas Tribune. No one confronted the 18-year-old shooter until a Border Patrol SWAT team arrived more than an hour after the first shots were fired. The FDIC will break up Silicon Valley Bank and relaunched the sale process after failing to attract buyers in its latest auction. Now regulators will extend the bidding deadline and sell this bank in two parts. It's an effort to attract additional suitors. The feds took over operation, of course, after SVB, Silicon Valley Bank, failed earlier this month. He had some help in San Francisco trying to find whoever opened fire on this Muni bus. It happened last night near 13th and Mission Streets in the city. The passenger who was shot was taken to the hospital. The extent of the injuries unclear, and police say the suspect ran off before they arrived. They're now asking for any witnesses to come forward. A crash involving two rideshare passengers is unfolding on Interstate 580. Police say the passengers got out of an Uber last night near the Isabel Avenue off-ramp in Livermore after allegedly assaulting the driver. He took off. Two people hit by a car. One of them died. The CHP found both after calls about vehicles swerving to miss someone in the road. And lastly, there is a volcanic island off the coast of Brazil that has long fascinated scientists, but now they say it's terrifying them. That is because of the recent discovery there of what they're calling plastic rocks.
What?
These rocks are made of melted plastic intertwined with natural rocks. One geologist studying the rock says it is new and terrifying at the same time because the pollution has now reached geology. The plastic is believed to come from mainly fishing nets. Those looking at the matter closely say the bottom line is that the pollution, the garbage in the sea, the plastic dumped incorrectly in the oceans is becoming a geological material preserved in the Earth's geological records. That should scare us all. This report sponsored by tax attorney Steve Moskowitz. For more than 30 years, Steve has put his tax knowledge to work for individuals and for businesses. If you need help with your taxes, call Steve Moskowitz. He's at 888-TAX-DEAL. At the bottom of your screen, you can see the website as well, moskowitzllp.com. Our thank you to him for sponsoring The Mark Thompson Show. I'm Kim McAllister, and this is The Mark Thompson Show.
Feel it in your soul. The Mark Thompson Show.
And of course, Mark is at his paying job today, so I'm filling in today, tomorrow, and Wednesday, and I'm so excited. Maybe once every couple years, I get to talk to Robert Scoble. And if you don't know who he is, it's definitely because you're not paying attention to AI and super deep tech stuff. But I am, and I love to talk to him about it. Let's bring him in. This is Robert Scoble. Hi, how are you? Hi. It's been a little while since we've talked. And I always sometimes I have to ask you to repeat stuff because sometimes things get so kind of intertech that I have to stop and go, wait, what did he just say? But right now, AI is heating up. You've got the chat GPT, you've got the bots everywhere, you've got everything going on.
Microsoft is building it into Office, so everybody's getting it soon.
Why do we need it? What is happening?
Well, these are called large language models. They ingested all human knowledge into them, and it does a lot of things. I mean, you can ask it to write marketing copy for you, write emails to people, talk to you about things, teach you how to make dinner, set up a plan for marathoning in 2 years. I mean, it's on and on. And what's really happening is the programmers are getting very powerful new tools. Many of my friends are saying, my God, I used to take a month to write code to do something. Now it writes it in less than an hour. So a huge productivity shift is coming, and there means maybe job losses.
That's what I'm thinking, because developers, engineers, and software, these are high-paying jobs. Are these jobs on the way out?
Nah, not yet. But, it's clear that if you're using AI, you're going to have a huge, huge advantage over people who don't use AI now. And if you're not playing with these tools, and you soon will be, because it's going to be built into Google's suite of tools and Microsoft's Office and other tools, these things are very, very powerful and do things that are mind-blowing. You really need to start using them to really understand what they can do for your life, and just keep talking to them, keep trying, because they're changing all the time too.
I think most people haven't used them. you know, would say probably, I don't have a need for that. I'm not interested in that. But I think it's possible, kind of like the internet at the beginning, where a lot of people were like, yeah, internet, whatever, I don't need that. And now here it is, you know, it's part of everyday life. And I wonder, is that where we're headed with AI?
Yes, absolutely. Apple in June is going to announce major new AI integration into their OS, right? And into all of their devices. So this is coming. Is it just, you know, do you get on before June or after June? You know?
What does it look like? What is our everyday life? How does that change for us?
Well, for me, I have a screen with ChatGPT, which is from a company called OpenAI on my screen. And I just keep asking it like, hey, I need to answer an email today from a rate customer. How would you answer it? And damn, it writes the email for you. It's sick. Right. So if you're not trying it, you just don't understand how powerful and how deeply it's going to affect your life. Yes. What should I make for dinner tonight? It has an answer. And then it tells you how to make the dinner.
I worry, though, that if instead of taking a moment to respond to a message personally, or to write an email to Robert Scoble asking him if he could please be a guest on the show. You know that saying, if you don't use it, you lose it.
Yeah.
So is this going to render us all, you know, illiterate? Are we not going to be able to write very well? Are we not going to be able, when someone says, hey, can you send us an email to Robert? Am I going to be like, I haven't done that in so many years. I don't know how anymore.
Maybe, but it actually helps me write. By the way, if you write 1,500 words of your own and then copy it into ChatGPT and then say edit it or shorten it or lengthen it, it does. And it does a pretty credible job. Or convert it to German or Japanese. It does, right? Or change it to sound like Snoop Dogg is talking to you. And it does. And it does a good job at that. Or Donald Trump. You know, that's not Donald Trump. Wrote me a letter, you know, and it did. That's like, whoa.
Wow.
Yeah.
So when you talk about the way we're going to use it, probably more for communication, but also you mentioned making dinner, right? And so I wonder, is this a marketing tool then? If they're trying to sell more beans, are they going to, say, oh, make this bean dish for dinner? Is this a way for them to sell stuff to us too?
It's hard to affect the model. So it's hard to get it to tell it about your brand of bean dish, right? So that it can ingest that. But it probably already knows about your brand of bean dish. So if you start asking it for, hey, what kinds of beans can I buy? Or what brands should I buy? And what's the advantage of them? It might give you an answer, right? And it probably does. It might not be satisfying. By the way, with all of these tools, these large language models like ChatGPT, and Google has its own version of this, and Apple is working on something that we'll hear about in June. They don't really know anything, right? It still is a computer underneath it. A computer is basically a light switch that's going on and off. Okay, 18 billion light switches going on and off. To the human, it looks like it knows things. It's really good at just predicting the next word in a sentence or the next line in a line of code. So start with that. It sometimes bullshits you. And you have to, if you're asking it to write an essay on Greek history, you have to read it all before you turn it in to your teacher, right? Because there might be a few mistakes in there, and you have to find the mistakes, and that's your job to know the topic,
right?
Figure out, whether everything is factual in there. But yeah, I mean, you can ask it to do all sorts of code. You can ask it to do anything, and it answers. And it's pretty interesting in how it answers. It even parses humor, right? So if you say something funny, I can put the line into ChatGPT and say, "Can you explain why that was funny?" And it tears apart the sentence and tells you all sorts of. Well, it did this with a piece of humor I did, and it tore apart my humor and explained it to people.
What? And by the end, you're like, hey, maybe that wasn't so funny after all.
No, it was funny, but now you understand. You know, some humor is cultural, right? It has a lot of innuendos or things that maybe you don't understand. Maybe you're autistic, like my son. He just doesn't get it. Well, he can have ChatGPT explain a joke to him, and all of a sudden he understands why it's so funny, right?
There was an article that came out today saying the CEO of ChatGPT, the company behind ChatGPT, says he's a little bit scared. Did you see this? He said in a recent interview with ABC News, OpenAI CEO Sam Altman said he is worried about how AI tech could affect the workforce, elections, and the spread of disinformation. His company developed ChatGPT, which provides human-like answers to questions. Is there a reason for us to be scared about what ChatGPT could be spreading around in the world?
Not about ChatGPT. Most of these fears are about things that it could do in the future. In fact, yesterday I wrote a whole bunch of stuff about, I visited San Quentin prison, right? And if you studied San Quentin prisoners, well, they would have a different point of view on how to treat people than maybe me and you would. Well, if it learns those behaviors from a prisoner, it would become unaligned with human behavior, with human values, right? Normal people's human values, because there's people in the prison who take great joy in killing you, for instance, right?
Wait, so it learns from us?
Yeah, it learned from all of our writings and all of our video. You know, soon it's going to learn from all of our videos, everything, right? This is how it figured out the patterns. Another AI that's similar, Stable Diffusion, ingested 100,000 gigabytes of photos, of videos into its engine to do AI art. ChatGPT ingested a whole lot more than that, like a lot of our books, a lot of our writings, a lot of our blog posts, a lot of our social media posts. It ingested all that, ran it through a huge data center to build a model which has the patterns of what we do with each other, right? That's how it can talk to you. And it's really good at it. It's way better than most human beings, the truth be told.
So if it talks to the bad people, then we get the bad stuff.
It could. And it tells you that, right? If you ask it, what is alignment, AI alignment, it'll tell you all sorts of things that it could do wrong. You know, I sat next to an AI safety researcher on the way coming home from UK by accident. And he told me all sorts of things that it could learn and derail and do negative things. The bullshit is one of them, right? You know, if you are asking it for help on a task and it puts some bullshit in there and you don't notice it, could that change your factory floor and cause some problems? Could that give you the wrong drug if you're asking for medical help? Absolutely, it's possible. So there are some downsides here that we do need to consider. Then there's the jobs thing. This, you know, in America, the #1 job is truck driving. Well, I have a Tesla in the garage. I can tell you self-driving cars and vehicles are coming. Now, is it here yet? No. But how many more years will that be true? Not many. So now we have to worry about all those people's jobs as autonomous vehicles come in and start driving trucks and Uber cars and taxis and stuff. That's going to be a huge problem. And that's just for the transportation. This stuff is going after white collar people, right? Yeah. Already AI is better than a surgeon at seeing tumors in scans, right? So this is going after highly, highly trained people who have education and wealth and understanding of things. It's better than them. So it's going to be better than me at my task too, in a lot of ways. And we have to be on top of that.
How do you feel? And last question for you, because I know we're running out of time, but how do you feel about all these tech sector layoffs that are happening? We're probably going to see more of them because of AI, but is this whole industry changing and then this just adding another layer? That's how it feels.
Yeah. It's massive change all at one time. Like from the banks are collapsing and the layoffs are happening because profits are down, right? And AI is coming. But think about it. We just laid off 200,000 people who know how to use computers. right? And we just gave them very, very powerful new tools to build new things. So we're going to see a lot of new things next year, is my prediction, because of this.
You think all the people that got laid off are innovators and are
Well,
coming?
not all of them, but they certainly know how to talk to a computer.
Right.
They certainly know how to get ChatGPT. It's $20 a month for the pro version. They can start using it to build code. I mean, it's building radical new architectures. You can ask it to build things, and it does. Does it make mistakes? Yes, but you're way further along than if you had to build it manually, right?
Yeah, it's exciting and scary all at the same time.
Absolutely.
Robert Scoble, where can people find you? You write a lot. You have a lot of knowledge to share. How do we get it all?
Twitter. I'm following 45,000 people in the AI space on Twitter. I'm the only human to do that, and I'm retweeting everything that I see that's important to pay attention to. So Twitter is the best place. I mean, I'm on Facebook and LinkedIn and other places, but Twitter is where the action is.
Awesome. Thank you, Robert Scoble. I hope to talk to you soon. Let's make it not as long next time, not as long a period to wait to talk.
Love talking to you. Thank you.
Thanks, Robert. Bye. Right now, I want to bring on Steve Moskowitz. I see him waiting in the wing. And Steve Moskowitz, of course, our founding sponsor here on the Mark Thompson Show. Oh, and the rainbow shirt today. Hi.
Hi, Kim. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you for waiting, because it's always important to talk. We're in March now, and people are thinking about taxes and thinking about money. And what can you say? Is it time to get your stuff together and go for it?
It is. And when you're thinking about money, there's so many people that may be eligible for ERC, employee retention credit. That's where the government is giving away. That's right, giving away. It's not a loan, giving away up to $26,000 for every employee that you had in 2020 and 2020 if you qualify. So how do you qualify? One way is by a certain drop in gross revenue, and that's real easy. But so many firms are stopping there, and if you don't qualify under the easy way, they're saying you don't qualify. And that's a horrible disservice, because there's another way to qualify. It's just a lot more work for the professional. The easy way is quick. Well, we do those too. But if you don't qualify because your gross revenue didn't drop enough, there's another way that you may qualify for. And a lot of people who don't have the drop in gross revenue needed for the first method do qualify for the second method. It's a lot more work. Sometimes we have to talk to clients multiple times, go over a lot of facts and circumstances. But if you qualify, you get just as much money as if you qualified under the easy way. So if you've never heard of ERC, if your employer, contact us. But if you've been turned down for ERC because your CPAs, and remember, I was a CPA before I was a tax attorney. If your CPA said, oh, no, your gross revenue didn't go down enough, or the CPA wasn't familiar with it, because a lot of CPAs are not dealing with this, contact us for a second opinion. And if you qualify, let's get every dollar to which you're legally entitled.
Absolutely. Why wouldn't you want every dollar to which you're legally entitled? Can make things a lot better. Steve Moskowitz, I always appreciate you coming on the show. You're awesome. 888 Tax
My
Deal.
pleasure. Thanks so much, Kim.
Yes, MoskowitzLLP.com is the website. And if you think you could qualify for ERC, if you just have questions about it, or if you have any tax questions, you got to give Steve Moskowitz a call. He's the guy. Thank you, Steve Moskowitz.
Thanks, Kim.
It is the Mark Thompson Show, and we are actually in the home stretch, kind of coming down to it. I've got some more news for you. 11:30 came quicker, so I didn't get a lot of pictures in, but let's do a little news. What do you think, Albert?
Yeah, let's get some news, and we got one more check-in with Mark, and then we'll wrap up the show.
Okay, sounds good. We just saw him, but I'll tell you again, this report sponsored by tax attorney Steve Moskowitz at 888 Tax Deal. Former President Trump says President Biden stuffed the Manhattan District Attorney's Office with officials from the DOJ. This as the Manhattan DA is investigating a hush money payment made to adult film actress Stormy Daniels ahead of the 2016 election. Prosecutors have signaled a possible indictment, but the DA's office hasn't confirmed Trump's claim that he would be arrested in connection with the case on Tuesday. The president of China is visiting the Kremlin to meet Russian President Vladimir Putin. The visit is Xi Jinping's first to Russia since Putin launched his invasion of Ukraine last year. China's foreign ministry says the visit will run through Wednesday. And North Korea says it used its latest missile test to simulate a nuclear attack on neighboring South Korea. North Korean leader Kim Jong-un accusing the U.S. and the South Korea nation of planning aggression against his country. Sunday, Kim oversaw a short-range ballistic missile launch that reportedly landed in the sea after traveling about 500 miles. Pardon me. California's largest school district is a day away from shutting down for at least 3 days. 65,000 Los Angeles Unified School District employees are on strike tomorrow unless a last-minute deal is reached. I have to cough. Pardon me. Okay, I'm back. Crews are making progress on the Highway 1 closure along the Big Sur coast. They plan to start clearing a landslide this morning and hopefully reopen one lane today. The exact timing to be revealed first on social media. The highway shut down between Deachen's Inn in Monterey County to Ragged Point in San Luis Obispo County due to debris on the roadway. Speaking of debris on the roadway, or I should say debris in the ocean, demolition starts today for the pier at Seacliff State Beach in Aptos. It was partially destroyed by high surf during January storms. California state parks say it's in danger of collapsing and needs to come down as soon as possible. The lifeguard tower and other items on the pier have been removed. The work is expected to take about 6 weeks, but the campground will remain closed for the rest of the year there. This report sponsored by tax attorney Steve Moskowitz. For more than 30 years, Steve has put his tax knowledge to work for individuals and businesses alike. So if you need help with your taxes, it's 888-TAX-DEAL or MoskowitzLLP.com.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Just jumping back on, everybody. You know why I'm jumping back on.
Now,
because of
Mark's Madness.
You know it. We got a good one going today. What a great Monday in Mark's Madness. Voting continuing for the drops from last hour. Voting's continuing for the drops from this hour. This hour, it is these two. Vote for one or the other.
I don't wear a mask for the same reason I don't wear underwear.
Wait, what?
And we've got a good one going today. Last hour, voting continues, and this hour, voting continues for these two drops. Either...
Seriously? What the
Yeah, that or the Trump drop.
If you get it in order, you get extra points.
Right, either...
Seriously? What the
Or the Trump drop is...
If you get it in order, you get extra points.
Seriously or get it in order. Good luck. The voting continues now. Wow. I can tell you, I do remember what I picked on this. I don't want to say because the audience will vote against me just to screw me. That is the kind of relationship we have. And I frankly respect that. Yeah.
I think both are strong. It's really a hard one to pick.
This is potentially... Which one was seated higher, Commissioner? Which one was seated higher in the tournament standings?
With these two, Trump order was seated higher just because of the past performances. But seriously, WTF has, I don't know, has some upset potential. There's not the... Trump doesn't have the most fans out there right now. So
yeah, I feel like some of the mojo around get it in order has been lost. You know what I mean? Through the years. But
if you get it in order, you get extra points.
Yeah, we used to use that a lot, you know. But but that is seated in the tournament higher because it has done so well in the past.
Seriously, what the
So seriously, what the F? As Albert says, it would be technically an upset since it's seated lower. Anyway, again, to review, voting continues in the community section of our YouTube channel until midnight tonight. So if you're watching in replay, as I think most people do, or many people do, you can still vote in the community section of our channel. You just click on the little mug that says Mark Thompson Show, you go and you'll see home, videos, shorts, live, community, and that's where it is. And if you're on an iPad or something, you can just load the desktop version. It'll be there on the right. You just hit desktop site, and you'll see community there. I think the commissioner has it up for you to see. That's what it'll look like.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So you can see home, videos, shorts, live, playlists. Community is right there next to playlists.
And that means even if you didn't vote this hour, you can go back and then vote whenever, right?
Exactly.
Until midnight, I should say.
Until midnight.
Yeah.
And the
Okay, cool.
commissioner up late giving it. They're the prior votes. Yeah, you can see where all of the different votes worked out in prior rounds. You can see that all right there. So good luck. But again, this hour, it's either seriously or it's the order.
Seriously? What the
or the order.
If you get it in order, you get extra points.
All right. So, Kim, rock on. Yeah.
Right on.
Right on.
The Mark Thompson Show. The Mark Thompson Show.
Smash it with your iron rod.
Who's Mark Thompson?
Hey, which one of you is Mark Thompson?
What he's got going here is a situation.
It's unbelievably offensive.
Put up your pants, my man. Pull up those pants.
Ralph Nader just sent me a book. Did he send you one too?
I offer this sincere apology to you today.
Everything is going extremely well.
Call me a liar. Now what do you call him?
You, sir, are a liar.
You are a cover-up artist, and you are a liar.
Liar, liar, your pants are on fire!
A Google told me.
Can you let him finish, sir? It was wrong, it was stupid, and I'm trying to be a better person.
No, no, no.
I'm going to tell you what I think.
What are the porn stars doing?
Do you have a secret talent?
Doesn't anybody better weed?
100% effective. How about that?
Say what?
And this is their new host.
There is no defense for my conduct.
I misspoke. I stand corrected.
And I wanted to apologize to the Asian community, the Asian American community.
Time's up, mother effers.
It is the Mark Thompson Show. I'm Kim McAllister in for Mark. Of course, Mark at KFI in Los Angeles today. Someone asked, what is KFI? And I thought SF Tesla had a great response. It is a radio station in Los Angeles, similar to what Station X used to be, KGO, but in the Los Angeles area. So Mark is filling in Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday on KFI, and he will be interspersed throughout the show here on the Mark Thompson Show on YouTube. We're talking about March Madness, and then he'll be back live on Thursday. So thank you for that. I did also want to thank Kevin Hobbs, because Kevin Hobbs is, again, coming through with a donation, contribution to the Mark Thompson Show, $33.77.
Thank you.
Kevin Hobbs, thank you for always donating.
Thank you.
Yay. Of course, you guys know by now you can do the super chat or the stickers on YouTube. We've got Patreon. We've got, what else do we have? PayPal. We've got all kinds of ways if you want to kick into the show. TheMarkThompsonShow.com is the place to find it, the place to see if you are interested in supporting the show. Also, TheMarkThompsonShow.com, a great place to find other information. You can get a link to the Mark merch on that website. You can see the link to the YouTube shows and everything else. So it's a great place to check out. Click the like button now if you could. Everybody, 1, 2, 3, boom,
Smash
click it, because
with your iron rod.
take the iron rod and give us a little love. Oh, that sounds kind of naughty, but you know what I'm saying. Albert, I don't know if you saw this story, but if you love the Golden Gate Bridge like I do, you know, maybe every time you see it, you think, this is home. You can now have a piece of the Golden Gate Bridge in your backyard, one could say, for a mere $12,000. Apparently, several years ago, when crews were doing the retrofitting of the bridge, they took down some trusses or some struts or something. Here it is. Yeah. And they took it down and apparently auctioned it off for $1,000. There's 2 of these, and they're 27 feet long. They're really, really big. They were from the San Francisco side of the bridge, I believe. Well, someone bought them for $1,000, and this person is one of these people that buys storage unit stuff and then turns around and auctions it all off for more. So
Like a
now,
reseller. So
yeah,
they're
like a
just
reseller.
buying something to flip it for some more
Mm.
money.
Now one of these struts is going to cost you $12,000. So that's a
Ooh,
$10,000,
it's a wild idea, but it just might work.
markup, absolutely. But you could have the Golden Gate Bridge in your backyard, or use it for a sculpture or something. Are you interested, Albert? Would you like
No,
that?
I'm guessing this guy just had this hunk of metal at his house and was like, you know what? This was a good idea at the time, but this has no purpose in my life, and it's like kind of resting. You can see it's kind of resting right there. So it's just
Okay.
kind of sitting. I mean, it's a
Yeah.
part of history. It's a great like, oh, look what I got. But other than that, it's just a piece of metal.
I think maybe if they chopped it up and made it into coffee tables, like supports or something, it could be a good conversation piece.
Yeah, it's
$12,000
not quite
though.
like, Candlestick Park right before they were gonna tear it down. They were like, "Oh, we're gonna sell the seats." Those actually serve a purpose. You can sit on those. It's
Yeah.
iconic. It's functional, right? But
Right.
this is just trash.
You think that's trash? I don't know. I
No,
think
it's history. You're right. It's not trash, but it's like it just sits there, and it's 27 feet. Where are you gonna put that thing?
it's a pretty big thing. I mean, maybe if a sculptor bought it and made something special, perhaps, then I guess it could be useful. But until then, it's just junk laying in your
Here's
yard.
a great
So,
idea. Maybe sell smaller pieces of it. Yeah, chop it up a little bit and then sell it
right.
in smaller pieces. Not $12,000. Sell them like a little lower price, but
Well,
I
I
don't
think
know.
there's something to what you're saying, because it was for sale and it's been for sale forever, and now they're finally publicizing it because no one just bought it, because nobody wants all that junk laying around. So, yeah, I think that's right. The smaller pieces, more affordable,
Smaller
and
pieces.
then
Mindy said here, give it to a museum. Maybe that's a good option. There's like
yeah,
some San Francisco historical museum who would like this. This was from the San Francisco span, from
yeah,
this year to this year, right? That would be a lot better than just keeping it at your house.
I think so.
I know
I don't
Mark
know.
wanted to get one of those BART trains. BART was selling some of their older
Yeah,
some of their older cars, and he really wanted. This is right when KGO was starting, and I was also a brand new producer to him, and he was just like, yeah, I want to buy this and maybe we can record stuff in it. So I was down for everything he wanted to do, but unfortunately he didn't get it because I don't think Courtney was approving of it at the time.
no, I wouldn't either. But they were auctioning off those old BART trains, and I think a lot of people bought them, put them out back, and then used them, turned them into offices during the pandemic, right? So they had these little BART train offices out back. I
Yeah,
don't
it's
know.
way better than those people who got stranded. Like I remember reading during the pandemic, someone was like, "I'm stuck here in the Maldives, but I can't come back because of COVID. But it was a great idea from the start, but now I'm just stuck here, and I have to work from this laptop."
Speaking of interesting things happening, did you see this video? Let's see if I can share it with you. Over the weekend, I want to say Thursday or Friday night. I'll have to look that up. There was some type of debris falling through the sky. And I mean, it looked cool, kind of like shooting stars, except like it went on for a lot longer. And so people were wondering, what is happening? What is all this stuff falling through the sky? I want to show you the video. It turns out that it was space junk. I don't know if you can see that. Let me make sure you can get it. This video is from Cron 4, and they've got this video of this space junk re-entering the Earth's atmosphere.
Oh my gosh, those look like asteroids.
Yeah, streaking through the sky, but not burning up in the Earth's atmosphere. So kind of interesting. They said it was a piece of an Italian laser, or some type of Italian antenna that just burned up, and that was it. So yeah, it was oh, sorry, not Italian, a Japanese radio antenna that used to be bolted onto the International Space Station, The antenna was retired in 2017, tossed out 3 years ago. Most of it, they say, burned up upon entering the atmosphere, but a few melted pieces may have actually hit the ground. So that is what people saw. But at the beginning, pardon me, at the beginning, people were saying, "Oh, it's old satellites. It's old Starlink satellites. It's just stuff, don't worry about it. No big deal. Nothing to see here." But people driving along Highway 101 and looking up in the sky that happened to catch that said those things were coming down for several minutes, and it was pretty interesting.
I mean, it looks like stuff out of movies, like
Right.
Men in Black. Like it reminds me of that. And we
Yeah.
do have a ton of junk just orbiting like in our atmosphere up
It's
there.
there.
This is
Yep.
years and years of studies and science. As like I know they're all trying to do stuff up there, but they have left a lot of their stuff up there.
A lot of stuff just floating around. That's right. Space junk. Did you see the email did you get the email that we got from listener Melissa?
I did.
I want to say Melissa. Yeah, Melissa. I'm going to read you this email because she just touched my heart so much. I don't know if we can put a picture of her up, but
oh yeah, let me go grab that while you're reading up the email.
She writes this message to us, and I have to share it because so nice. A lot of you have sent messages to the Mark Thompson Show at gmail.com or to me at kimmcallister@gmail.com talking about your memories of Station X. And this is kind of along those lines, but it just really kind of hits home as to what the station meant to people. The message begins, "Oh, dear Mark, where do I begin? I'll try to be concise. I'll work backward. Friday afternoon, I brought my 87-year-old mom home from the hospital. She was stable, alert, and needed to rest. I could now take a breath and get some lunch and decompress. Shortly after that, I found myself driving by the Red Jack. Yes, the Red Jack in San Francisco on Bay Street. I did a double take," she says. "I made a legal U-turn. Well done. Parking space right out front. Aha, it was meant to be. Go figure. This was the best decision I could have made to lift my spirits. Every patron was friendly and welcoming. Danielle, the bartender, was professional, funny, and wonderful. I ordered the Marktini, sans olives, cranberry juice, triple sec, and a twist of lime, a la Cosmo." So she gets the Marktini, which, by the way, proceeds from the Marktini are donated back to the show. Lori and Mark, who run the bar, were not in, but I enjoyed watching sports and talking to my seatmates. Aaron, another patron, was delightful, and we laughed a lot, which I needed. I wasn't even through 3 sips of my drink. All of my faculties were intact. I was already loving the energy and how time slowed. The next thing I knew, Lori appeared and introduced herself, and we hugged. She grabbed her husband, Mark, to take our photo. There's the pictures. I'm the one in the hat, if you couldn't tell. So that's Melissa. Can we get Melissa back? There she is in the hat. Hi, Melissa. There you are. And Lori, very cute. Lori and Mark seem like truly genuine good people, she writes. It's a local bar with a nice mix of ages. It felt like home. I will return and I will bring friends. That feeling has been missing for a long time. Someone who doesn't drink would feel welcome too. She talks about a large stage space that we should go do a show from there. The Red Jack, she said, is worth you even spontaneously making an incognito to visit and hang out. She
There's
said,
never been anything like this.
I remember your first day on the air at Station X, your banter with Ron Owens and Pat Thurston, and I have enjoyed your show ever since. I had listened to KGO from the time I was 7 years old. It was a devastating loss in many ways. Thank you for all you do. Thank you for convincing Kim, Albert, and Tony to follow. I appreciate this YouTube platform and the community this opportunity has allowed us to create. Most sincerely, Melissa. Melissa, you are so awesome. Thank you so much for that wonderful letter. Mark forwarded it to the crew, and we all really were touched by what you wrote. So thank you for that. I also want to take time to thank the kind, wonderful people at the bar who made her feel welcome and loved over at the Red Jack. Mark and Lori and all the crew, Danielle, everybody out there who take time to make people feel welcome. That's really, really kind. And also, I just want to mention again, there is a Marktini and a Maduro Mule, and they are kind enough to send the proceeds to us here at the show and at Nikki's show. So thank you to them for doing that. And thank you to everyone who is a customer of the Red Jack and continues to just celebrate it as much as we do.
Yeah,
All
Kim,
right,
if you want a bonus, I should just go over there and order like 15 martinis or something, and then we'll
Could
get a
you?
little some of that. It'll
Excellent.
just be circular.
I
I'll
love
just be
it.
paying for my own drinks with my
The
just
money's
by
coming
ordering.
right back. You can order more. It's gonna be a beautiful thing. There's never been anything like this. All right, we have a couple minutes. Should we do a stories from the sky? What do you think?
Yeah, we could. Yeah, let's do it.
Let's do it. Here it comes.
We have clearance, Clarence.
Roger, Roger. What's our vector, Victor?
Enough is enough! I have had it with these monkey fighting snakes on this Monday to Friday plane! Everybody strap in!
And this is Stories from the Sky on the Mark Thompson Show. I'm Kim McAllister in for Mark today. And I don't know if you've ever really despised someone you work with to the point where you refuse to work with them. You don't care who it affects. Well, that's kind of how it went down at Sky West. A jet was delayed by 2 hours after two staffers refused to work with one another and stormed off the plane in a clash over a passenger who asked to swap from first class to coach.
What?
Yes. The coworkers were bickering over whether this passenger would be able to swap seats. Apparently, the fight did not end well because they did not agree.
I don't think you should apologize for how you feel.
These two flight attendants were not having it with each other. A bad day at work. Stormed off the plane, 2-hour delay. So a male flight attendant had granted the request for the passenger to switch. A female flight attendant said, no, don't allow that. That's against SkyWest policy. The airline only allows people to swap seats 72 hours before takeoff. You can't come on the plane and just put someone up into first class. So then the male flight attendant starts yelling at the female worker. She runs to the front of the plane. She starts to cry. It's a mess. They kept bickering, going back and forth in the middle of the aisle about the rules and what was right and what was wrong. Oh my God, can you imagine being on that plane, watching this whole fight between workers unfold? Eventually, apparently, the male flight attendant gets off the plane and a new crew member comes on to replace him. An hour after that, the female flight attendant decides she's going to get off the plane too. So the passengers say, after that, we just sat down and waited and waited and waited and waited some more. 2 hours later, it was a whole big thing. They had the flight crew come on, the pilots came out, tried to talk through it. It was such an ordeal. And yeah, so that's what happened. Apparently SkyWest is now investigating this incident into what happened. They say they are aware of reports regarding a flight attendant issue. The plane was operating as an American Eagle flight from Los Angeles to Houston on Saturday. It was totally delayed. And they're apologizing.
Policies are not like what's the difference between? I know it's a difference between like an actual seat, but if the two passengers agreed to switch, or what's wrong with that?
I don't know if it was a two passengers who agreed to switch, or if just one was being switched from coach to first class for some reason. Do you feel like there was two that agreed to switch? Because I don't have a problem with that, but I guess there's rules, and rules is rules. I think it had to do more.
Wait, who are you signing more with here, Kim?
I think it had to do more with them just not liking each other. I mean, they probably had a history, because you don't stand in the middle of the aisle where all the passengers are looking at you and yell at each other like that and bicker back and forth and have this incredibly unprofessional moment unless there's a history and you just hate each other.
And it lasting for a total 2 hours. So I think that's the whole worst part of this. These people are just sitting here on the tarmac just listening. Well, I mean, I'm sure it was very entertaining for the first few minutes, but like after that, it's like, come on, let's we got to get out of here.
Yeah. Okay, next story. This is another delay, 3 hours of the delay at the SeaTac airport, and it's because of a suspicious package investigation. It shut down parts of the Seattle-Tacoma International Airport for 3 hours on Sunday night, causing departing passengers to miss flights. It was an untagged, unattended piece of luggage in the Alaska Airlines ticketing area that led to this whole investigation. Who left the luggage? That's what I want to know. Who is responsible? Officials say there was never a direct threat, but out of an abundance of caution, port police shut down the ticketing areas on the north side of the airport.
That's not
and
fake.
the upper departures drive. They had the bomb squad come out, rendered the package safe, which means basically they blew it up just to make sure, and discovered the bag contains scuba and fishing gear. So that's gone. Done.
I hope did they
Apparently,
find the person who the perpetrator who just accidentally left their bag and just created chaos?
they didn't say, but chaos is right, because not only were there delays at the airport as far as flights taking off, there was a traffic jam outside like you would not believe. People were stuck in traffic approaching the airport. All the vehicles had to squeeze into the lower arrivals drive, so people couldn't go anywhere else. So it was jammed up. People missed flights. What an absolute mess. And that is Stories from the Sky.
Hold on. Hold for me. I got it.
This has been Stories from the Sky. The captain has turned off the seatbelt sign, and you are now free to move about the cabin.
We had one more about giant snails being brought in, but no time for that. Oh, no.
I do have a couple updates before we go. Here's the live vote from today so far.
Okay.
And remember, you could vote for Marks Madness on the community tab on our YouTube channel.
Up until midnight, right? Yeah.
Up until midnight, you could still vote.
So if you're listening in replay, you didn't get a chance to do the live vote, go to the community page. The vote is open till midnight. You've got My Bad, I'm Sorry, and processes and protocols in place, right?
Yep. And for this hour, this is the just from the live chat results right here. The Trump order does seem like we heard Mark in that little short video say that Trump order is kind of outdated. I think it is outdated, and this might be my first loss in the bracket, so I'm very sad.
Oh no! Oh, that's okay, because unlike the basketball bracket, you're still able to go on and be a winner, right?
Yeah, well, because my bracket's still very much alive. So, unfortunately, Trump order is probably this is the last time it's going to be in Marks Madness, but it had a good run.
Has anyone in the history of Marks Madness ever gotten a perfect bracket?
We've had a few make it pretty perfect throughout, like into the second rounds, but it's pretty hard. I mean, that's why Warren Buffett offers like $1 billion for a perfect bracket. I mean, after the first few days of actual March Madness, they were number 1 seeds losing, which are the favorites, right? So, and then right after the first day, it was like a 0.06% of brackets were still perfect out of millions of brackets.
Well, this is so fun. Definitely something to enjoy during this month. It goes on into April. So we'll be doing this, and we'll be doing it again tomorrow. Tomorrow we'll be back. We'll announce today's winner. And we will also have David K. Johnson on the show, I believe. Right, Albert?
Yep. Our one of our favorites, David K. Johnson, will be with us tomorrow.
Absolutely. And I hope you will be with us, too, as we continue the Mark Thompson Show without Mark Thompson. Well, little tastes of Mark Thompson all throughout the show, which is nice. I'm Kim McAllister. Thank you for being here. You guys are so awesome. Until tomorrow, as Mark would say, bye-bye.